Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all very, very well. And thank you for joining us on this very special day as we have another Bring It On webinar. My name is Aidan Brown. I'm a Senior Lecturer at Belfast Metropolitan College. It's my very great pleasure and privilege to be here today to host this morning's session as we welcome guests from Aflac, a company with whom we've had the pleasure of running a graduate academy for. And you'll be hearing from Gareth McKittrick, one of their senior managers. You'll also be hearing today from Jessica Waterworth, James Goldsmith, and Kerry Murray, who graduated from the Belfast Met Assured Skills Academy, which we ran in partnership with Aflac and are now doing great things in the company. You'll hear more about that a little bit later on today. Now, you'll see in the chat bar the opportunity to ask questions today. So our delegates very bravely have agreed to answer any questions which you will put to them today. So if you have any questions, just type them into the chat bar. Now, just from the point of view from everyone watching and joining us today, this session is being recorded and will be uploaded to the Bring It On YouTube channel. So you'll have, as they say in the best broadcasting TV stations, another chance to enjoy this program a little bit later today. With regard to the questions, Gareth McKittrick, who's a manager in Aflac, has said that if there are easy and straightforward questions, they're to come to him. And if there are complicated questions, they're to go to his staff. So that's just to give you an overview of how things are going today. We hope everybody really enjoys the session. We're going to make it as interactive as possible. And there's going to be a chance for you to engage with people who are doing really exciting things in a sector which is expanding. Now, Belfast Met is very happy to play its role in supporting the sector. And at this point, it's my very great pleasure to hand over to my friend and colleague, Sarah Lyons, who will tell you about some of the very innovative and forward-looking work which is being done by the Bring It On team. Sarah.
Thank you, Aidan. I'll start my screen share. Good morning, everybody. As Aidan said, I'm Sarah Lyons from Belfast Met, and I lead the Bring It On programme here at the college. And Bring It On is all about raising awareness on careers and pathways into the IT sector. And given the current situation, we thought it was a good idea to run a series of webinars which are focused on people who maybe have been impacted on by the current pandemic situation and who are thinking about a change of direction. So this is the third Why Choose IT webinar we've run. We've been running one every month, so we've got another one in February and March. So I'm going to just tell you a wee bit about how you might consider getting into the sector, the different pathways, why you might consider a career in IT. We're going to look at some of the fantastic companies that are active in Northern Ireland at the moment. And then, of course, we're going to hear from our friends at Aflac later on. When I'm out and about, I often am challenged by people saying, oh, do you not need to have an IT degree to get into the sector? You may think that getting into IT is just for fresh graduates, but I'm here to tell you today that it's not. There may be traditional routes into the sector, yes, but even in pre-COVID times, we see, Aidan and I see all the time, that people are deciding to take the jump and move into IT regularly. So just because you may have worked in one industry for many years, it doesn't at all mean you should feel pigeonholed into that one area. You're definitely going to have skills that are transferable and applicable to a life in the IT sector. So we're just going to start off today by looking at why you might consider a career in IT. So first of all, salaries. So salaries are higher, they tend to be higher. So according to research published by our local statistics research agency, NISRA, the average tech salary in Northern Ireland is about £41,000, which compares to an average salary of £27,000 across all industries. There are many great jobs right here in Northern Ireland. COVID has hit the labour market hard. The very reason you might be with us today is because your job has been impacted by COVID, but we are seeing that the tech industry is continuing to grow. According to a report by Tech Nation, which was published at the end of last year, Northern Ireland has the highest proportion of digital tech roles advertised out of all UK nations at 23%. Northern Ireland is appearing all the time in lists of top 10 tech cities of the future. And most recently, a couple of weeks ago, I know this was shared widely on social media. Zoopla published an article saying that Belfast is the most tech-friendly city. And the metrics they used included the number of technology job adverts, the number of electric vehicle charges, the number of tech startups, the average download speed. That's certainly not in my area. And also the affordability. So Belfast is right up there in terms of attractiveness for people, for companies coming here. You working in tech, you will have the opportunity to thrive personally. So working in IT does mean that you'll be working across various multidisciplinary teams and will lead to a really rewarding career. And this next point, relaxed and informal working environment, and times pre-COVID, before we were sitting in our kitchens, our bedrooms, and in my case, the attic, I would have spoken about offices that had space to have coffee, socialise, play video games maybe. A company we worked with even had a slide in the middle of their office, so why use the lift or stairs when you can descend on the slide? Now, I suppose what we're increasingly seeing is wellbeing initiatives online, maybe virtual. We've seen virtual bake-offs, virtual Christmas parties with hampers delivered. I'm seeing all the Aflac people here in their beautifully branded hoodies and jumpers there. And just this past week, I seen something really interesting online, and it was employed. There were people from Allstate who were sharing that they were having sessions with Mr. Motivator. Now, who knew Mr. Motivator was still knocking around? Well, really what I'm trying to say is that companies have a strong focus on employee engagement and flexibility, which is so important at this time, especially in the midst of another lockdown. Like, we all need that. We all need that support and that flexibility at the moment. So working in IT, you'll have the opportunity to potentially work across many different industries. So you could be working in anything from healthcare to cyber to insurance. So it's you're not just going to be standing in one place all the time. There are many different career paths. So roles do vary widely. There are a lot of different big areas in tech, which you may have heard of, like cyber, data, AI, fintech, cloud computing. Or you might not know about any of that at all, and that's okay. There are lots of different ways for you to find out and upskill, and I'm going to tell you about some of those in a few minutes. You will also have the opportunity to keep learning. Things are constantly changing in the world of tech. You'll be able to grow and develop your skills as new technologies emerge. You'll get the chance to explore your creative side. You'll be asked to contribute to projects, come up with new ideas. And if you're coming from a different industry, like we're going to hear from Aflac later, some of these guys did, you're going to be able to bring a fresh perspective to the table, which I think adds real value to teams. And I'm sure Gareth can back me up on that as well. We're now going to move on to looking at how you might get into a role in tech. And look, I think it really does depend on your personal learning style, but I do think there is a route for everybody. So if you have GCSE level qualifications, you could consider doing A-levels in any subject. Sometimes if you want to go on to do a tech degree at university, maths is preferred, but not always. You could do a BTEC diploma or extended diploma at one of the regional colleges around Northern Ireland. It could be in an area like cyber, or it could be broad-based IT. Similarly, you may choose to do an OCR qualification in IT. If you have A-level or equivalent qualifications, you might consider going on to university, doing a full or part-time degree. So there are a wide range of different courses available at Queen's University, Ulster University and Open University. There are foundation degrees and HNDs available at all the further education colleges around Northern Ireland. And then next in the next row, we have higher level apprenticeships and level 3 apprenticeships. So apprenticeships are available at all further education colleges across Northern Ireland. actually level 3 apprenticeships, IT apprenticeships are only available at Belfast Met. And to give you an idea of what subjects you could be looking at, or network, there's a level 3 apprenticeship in network infrastructure and software development. And I must apologise by talking in level 3 and level 5, because before I came to Belfast Met, I had no idea what they were. So I'm sure you're watching going, what on earth is a level 3 and what on earth is a level 5? So let me just backtrack a wee bit on that. So a level 3 is when you come out with the equivalent of 2 A-level passes, and a higher level apprenticeship is equivalent to, or level 5 is equivalent to the first 2 years of a university degree. So through the apprenticeship option, whether you choose network and infrastructure or software development, whether you choose at higher level cyber or software, cloud and application development, through those courses that you will do, you'll be employed with an employer. You'll do training alongside your employment. You'll be getting experience. You'll be earning a wage, and you'll have no fees to pay. Sometimes people really like that option because they want to get in and get experience. So if that's you, do look at the apprenticeship level 3 or higher level apprenticeship options. It is a great option to get in with a company and get upskilled and get ahead. And throughout the apprenticeship you'll be getting industry recognised qualifications, the likes of Microsoft MTA, Microsoft Technical Associate qualifications. For example, Cisco cyber qualifications, perhaps if you're doing the cyber route, or you could be looking at Azure or Amazon Web Services qualifications if you're doing the cloud route. So it really depends on you, what you're interested in, as well as the apprenticeships with the further education colleges. A lot of employers will offer degree-sponsored employment programs, or tech degree apprenticeships as they're sometimes known. So PwC, Deloitte, K&OS would offer programs like that. So that's another route for you to consider as well. So similar to the apprenticeships at FE colleges, you will be working and getting experience as well as doing your degree. So great options for you to consider. If you do have a degree, maybe you have been working in another qualification, you want to find out more, you want to get upskilled, you could look at the likes of professional qualifications available at further education colleges. So the likes of the MTAs, the Cisco cyber qualifications. You could look into graduate traineeships or employment from a non-IT related degree. I've highlighted the skills intervention program there in the middle. That's because that's particularly relevant to the time we're in at the moment. So the skills intervention program is, if you have been impacted by the coronavirus, there is a range of free, fully accredited courses available to help you retrain and improve your skills. So if you go to any search engine and type in skills intervention program Northern Ireland, you'll find an NI Direct page, and it will list all of the free courses that are available. There are still quite a lot available. I think the funding for this is up until the end of March. They're funded by the Department for the Economy. And I know this week I've seen CERC had advertised a fully funded training. CERC is the Southeastern Regional College. They had advertised a fully funded training program in cybersecurity. I know at Belfast Met we are running some courses as well, some MTA courses during February and March. So if your job has been impacted by COVID, you will be eligible to sign up to those free courses. I'm just going to move down then to the bottom right-hand side. You could consider doing a master's conversion course, which is available at Queen's University or Ulster University. And there's also masters in IT-related subjects that you could consider doing. Lastly, Assured Skills Academy. So Assured Skills Academy is something that Aidan and I know a lot about. Aidan, I think, has worked on all of the Assured Skills Academies that Belfast Met has delivered. So Assured Skills is something, again, which is funded by the Department for Economy. It is a pre-employment program, and it is fully funded, so participants will benefit from free training. You can apply for it. It doesn't matter what background you come from. It doesn't matter what degree you have. You can apply for the program. The training really depends on the subject area. So typically it may it's on average about 8 weeks long. The training would be. It's sometimes longer if it's a particularly technical topic, but we have run at the college assured skills academies in anything from cyber to business consulting, data, software testing, software engineering. So there's a wide range of tech subjects, and we see people coming from English degrees, of ballet dancers becoming cyber analysts. So it really shows you that anybody can take the jump and make the change. It's a really good opportunity to gain new skills, and it is equally as scary, I'm sure, as well. But we're going to hear from the experience of the guys from Aflac very shortly. Just before that, I'm going to talk about a few different employers in the IT sector. This is just a snapshot of the scene in ANI. So we've got Aflac on with us today. When we first met them it was over a year ago, I think, before Christmas. I met Aflac for the first time last year, and I don't even think there were 20 employees in the company then. And correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, I think you've got more than 70 today. It might even be more than that now. And in a time where probably you're all working remotely and you've onboarded all those people, which is very impressive. So we've actually seen that a lot. So if you look down there at the bottom right hand side, Fintru, during the first lockdown, they onboarded 200 new employees. City similarly had onboarded 170 odd employees in the first lockdown. Version 1 over here, they are a Dublin headquartered IT service provider. They've actually established a digital development hub in Belfast and are going to be creating 70 specialist jobs by October next year. Nuada announced a £20 million investment. Liberty IT announced before Christmas that they're going to be recruiting for 150 new roles in the next 12 months. And just this week, a US company called Everquote, it was announced that they're setting up a software development centre in Northern Ireland, creating 70 jobs. So you can see the amount of investment that's going into NI in the tech scene. That's just a small snapshot of a few different examples of different companies, but there's lots more going on. So if you haven't been put off by what I've said so far and you do want to consider going into IT, what should you do next? So one thing you can consider, the Department for the Economy have a careers service, and they actually have careers advisors that you can approach no matter what stage you're in your career. You can have an online consultation with those careers advisors. So please use that service. The DFE Careers Service also have a Careers Occupational Information Unit, and they publish information about different subject areas, and they've recently published very detailed information about data analytics and software technology. So if you're interested in those two areas, do have a look at that, because it is really detailed. There are interviews from people who are working in those areas describing what they're all about. And if you go on to, it's the Economy NI website, and to the Employment and Skills Programme, you'll find the Careers Occupational Information Unit, and that you'll find the information there. Other things you could do, you talk to somebody who's working in a career area you're interested in. We have a pool of Bring It On ambassadors who you could also talk to. Some other things you could do is build contacts through online platforms such as Meetup or Eventbrite, or you could do online courses via Coursera. Open University has an Open Learn platform with a lot of technical courses available to you. But do have a look at Meetup, because even before COVID, you could have gone to a tech meetup every night. And I know there are lots of things happening online, lots of free conferences, seminars, free events in different areas. Do have a look at what's going on, and don't be afraid to go in and try something new. And talking about trying something new now, we're going to move on to our Q&A with Aflac, and I'm going to hand back over to Aidan. So very welcome, James, Jessica, Karen, and Gareth.
Thank you very much indeed, Sarah, for a really exciting presentation. It's interesting to hear you talk there about the range of courses and options that are on. You mentioned the Open University, and former Labour Prime Minister Harold Wilson said that he considered the Open University to be his greatest achievement in public service, which is very interesting. Just yesterday, at Belfast Met, Susan McCambridge, our Assured Skills Manager, was talking to a person who's a barista who has GCSEs and has been away from study for many, many years, and that person's making an introduction into part-time study in IT. And also this week, we've spoken to someone who has a PhD who's interested in doing an Assured Skills Academy. So there are a range of courses, a range of options. And Sarah, of course, is too modest to tell you that she's worked not only regionally, but nationally and internationally in industry, and brings that experience with her. Worked in the automotive motor industry and worked in Iran and various parts of the world. And someone else who has travelled nationally and internationally and worked abroad is Kerry Murray, who has a very interesting story to tell us about working abroad. But also, Kerry, you're very welcome today. I wonder if you could start by telling us about your journey. If you could tell us about your studies, where you've worked, and what you're doing now, please.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Kerry, like Aidan said, and I'm currently working as a software developer at Aflac NI. So Aflac's a company that sells supplemental health insurance in the US and Japan, and then Aflac NI is their technology centre in Belfast. So as Aidan mentioned, my background isn't in IT at all. I was previously a science teacher, so I worked for a few years in Saudi Arabia teaching science and physics to secondary school students, so quite different to what I'm doing now. And I've been working for Aflac and as a software developer for almost a year now, after joining through the Assured Skills Academy. So the technology day-to-day that I'd be working with is Pega, which is a Java-based low-code tool for building applications. And my team for the past year has been working on a web chatbot. So it's sort of to make life a bit easier for those insurance agents who would be selling insurance to customers and for the customer service representatives in the call centres. So the bot can deal with a lot of the routine queries. So for example, one of the things we did was like if they sent in some fax documentation and they wanted to check that you received it, the bot can confirm that they got it, which date and all that sort of thing. So that saves a lot of hassle and having to call into a call centre and being put on hold for stuff that's like really routine. So it just makes life a bit easier. And I think the job's really interesting because, like Sarah was saying, it's so varied. Like since joining, we're working on something different every couple of weeks. And I think as well, with something like a web chatbot, it's quite cool to be able to see something like on a website that people are using, and we've heard the feedback from actual people that have had experience with it. So it's really, really good work to be involved in. And as well, Aflac NI, the company's great, really friendly, great benefits, lovely office when we get back to it, although we don't have a slide, so I'll have to take that up with Gareth afterward.
Kerry, thanks so much. That was really, really good. And lovely to hear about your journey. I want to just, Kerry, stick with you for a second before I come to Gareth, because you talked about the work which is being done by Aflac to make life easier for people and to make make choices more straightforward and so forth. And one of my favorite poets talks about the road not taken. Now you had a pretty good life working in Saudi. We're not going to mention tax-free and things like that, but a pretty comfortable lifestyle, doing something that you love, with a career that everyone would be, aware of as being very prestigious. And let's talk about the road not taken, because you decided to leave that security and to move into being a student again, and to move into a completely different, professional area. Could you tell us about the time that it took you to make that decision? How long had you been thinking about that, and why did you go down the Assured Skills Academy route, Kerry?
Yeah, I'd been thinking about it for a while actually, because, and part of the reason I went international was because I like variety, and I sort of thought teaching, I was getting a bit bored of it. Just, you're in school and then you work in school and then you retire. So I like to have different things happening all the time. So that's why I went abroad in the first place. I'd always had in the back of my mind that I might like to get into software. One of the options I had been considering was going through the master's conversion, but I was thinking, taking a year out and, you're not working and then you may not have a job at the end. And so that was one of my things. And then I saw the opportunity coming up for the assured skills. So I just happened to move home. So it was a nice, happy coincidence that I wasn't working anyway. So then I joined that, and it was, I actually liked that because it was kind of quicker, and throughout the process you got to meet the company that you may end up getting a job with at the end. So you got to get a good feel, which you would get more than if you were doing an interview that might last 20 minutes or an hour. So we had the managers from Aflac NI coming into the academy throughout the 9 weeks. So it was really good to touch base with them and have chats with them and get a bit more interaction with them and know what you're getting into.
That's a super point, Kerry, because I remember the very first academies that we worked on, and Stephen Parry, Dr. Stephen Parry, who's now a member of Parliament, was the Minister for Employment and Learning. He visited the academies regularly and talked about how in the past he felt colleges and universities would design a curriculum and then tell employers what it was. With these programs, we're listening very, very respectfully and very, very attentively to our partners in industry and designing curriculum in association with them, and then welcoming them into class to see what's going on. That's super. You mentioned, thinking about the Masters in Software Development. I can think vividly of the range of degree backgrounds we've had, and we had a chap in the academy who had done the Masters in Software Development, but his previous job had been in baking. He owned a cake shop. So, you name it, we've had it. So as Sarah mentioned, the range of degrees we've had theology, journalism, paleontology, law, accountancy, medicine, you name it, we've had it in such a range of people. And one of the most driven and motivated people that I ever worked with was on a very, very early academy, a young lady who had a first class honours degree in English from Queen's University. One of the most driven people I've ever worked with. And I said to her, why is that? And she really wanted to have a career in this area and has soared. And her first job after leaving Queen's was to work with her first class honours degree in English, was to work as an elf in Santa's Grotto in Castle Court. And she was so traumatized by the 6 weeks of Christmas music, indulged children and long queues that she had to get out of it, and made this leap into the Assured Skills Academy, where you have a range of disciplines. I move now to someone who's going to tell us a little bit about his journey as well. But Guy Fitzpatrick's a senior manager in Aflac. He manages a team made up of a range of degree disciplines, a range of backgrounds and experiences. So Gareth, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your journey, and then for you as a senior manager, what is it like to manage a team made up of such diverse backgrounds?
Sure, Aidan, I can. I can't claim to have ever been an elf. But I've certainly worked across various different diverse jobs. I mean, I remember being locked in an ice cream freezer, working in an ice cream factory way back, at the very, very beginning of my sort of working life. But my route into IT is not the traditional route either. From my perspective, I'm now 20 years plus working in IT and in software, from a development perspective through to managing engineering teams, setting technical direction, that type of thing. But like a lot of people, probably, I studied at a grammar school, got decent A levels, and then, you've got good A levels, you can go left or right, you can do law or medicine, so it's kind of one of those strange advice routes. So yeah, I opted, not having the science background at that point in time, to go down the law route. So, I ended up getting a law degree from Queen's. Can't say I enjoyed it, I have to admit, so got it. Been there, done that, had more fun in Queen's outside of the classroom than I would have had in the classroom itself. So then what next? What do you do with a law degree? Ended up working in a DIY store, so a similar story, so the degree doesn't necessarily dictate what you do next. It's how you apply yourself. So, I then moved on to what at the time graduate management development program, run by a company called Big Systems, so that graduate program. So that was kind of 6 months of, in-class training as well as placements in industry. And on the back of that, I got a job in a public relations firm. So working in public relations, writing press releases, doing things like that for, I think one of the major clients was, Electricity Ireland, and, which became Powergen or whatever it is. So, that kind of got me using computers on a daily basis, all through study, all through, those various different jobs. You get in contact with IT. You can't avoid it. In the modern world, you very definitely can't avoid it. What hit me like a train, I suddenly got a job in a PR firm, thoroughly enjoyed it, then got made redundant. So it was like, what do I do next? It's kind of one of those paths. Which path do I take at my crossroads? And some friends had done the master's conversion course the year before and talked to me about it. So I kind of decided, okay, I'll go that route. So I did the master's conversion course at the University of Ulster, and a very intensive year that all masters are. Those ones specifically coming from a non-IT background into the IT world proper, and that set me on a really good path. And 3/4 of the way through the year, I ended up getting a job in a local company, and onwards and upwards from there. So from that point in 1998 through to now, I've been very deep involved in software engineering. So I have that experience of coming through that pathway of not necessarily being vocational from the outset. And for me, I'm now in that position where I'm managing engineering teams, and I'm contributing to careers of people. Some are coming straight out of university through the traditional route, some coming from many diverse backgrounds. And what those, I've had people who have now worked for me over the years, from a sports background. I've had builders, car mechanics, people from retail, hospitality, banking and finance. All of these various different industries find their way into IT. And, dispel the myth, IT is not all about sitting in front of a computer writing software and programming. There are many facets to IT. We've got product owners. You need to have that public face. You need to be able to discuss and engage with customers and with stakeholders, and that comes from various different industries, as you know. We've got the concept of Scrum Masters, people who manage the day-to-day workload of engineering teams. That's another facet to it. We've got quality control, quality engineers, test engineers, people who love to break stuff. They don't necessarily want to write it. They want to go down that route of how do I break software? How do I improve the software that we write by, my role is to find faults. And then there's obviously engineering, and then there's production support. So all of these different facets are different aspects to a career in IT. And for me, managing people who have come from a diverse and different background is very, very enjoyable. Every single human's different. You manage an individual on a different basis because there's no cookie cutter. Not everybody's the same. But what people from other walks of life bring to IT is that life experience, and a good dollop of common sense, which goes a hell of a long way, to be honest. The nature of transitioning from one career to another shows how adaptable they are. The willingness to be adaptable. It shows an intense self-awareness. They've chosen a path. The path hasn't been chosen for them. They've specifically stated, I'm going to make a change to my life here. I'm going to, follow this path. And with that comes, different views on problems that we encounter day to day. A diversity of thought. A completely diverse set of individuals looking at the same problem can come up with a lot of different views, and that helps build a team. Having a team of different individuals from different backgrounds makes it a much more powerful group than the individuals that they are themselves. So for me, it doesn't matter how you got into IT, it's what you do next. There's many different career paths open to you once you've sort of, decided on that path. And for me, there's many different jobs within that industry, and there's many different skill sets that you can bring from other areas that will enhance, your role in IT. One of the major fallbacks that I always see with people who are career changing, they seem to be in a hurry sometimes. I've maybe wasted so many years. I'm now going to do this. I'm in a hurry. I'm running at full speed, and they don't realize that the skills they bring from other facets of life, and those are not there to be discarded. They're there to back up what you're doing. They're there to fall back on. Those skills are as important as the new IT skills that you're developing as you go. So for me, it's a really good experience to have people from those diverse, different career backgrounds. So,
Absolutely.
I'm always looking at those individuals.
and the qualities that they bring, and their ability to relate to people, relate to clients who have a challenge. I mean, we ran a cybersecurity academy, and the lady that we work with, the employer, said, you know, when I send an analyst out, the first thing I want them to think of is the impact on this person's life because of the breach, because of the difficulty in their business, and to strike up that relationship. I can think of another company that we work with at the minute who established such a relationship with the client that they waited a full month to get him to manage a project. So it's about building those relationships.
Yeah.
And I wonder, Gareth, I might just ask you to develop something further, because I was very interested in what you talked about, the range of backgrounds that you're managing and the qualities. If I could put you on the spot and say you're chairing an interview panel and you're interviewing candidates for a position, could you talk, obviously qualifications are important, but could you talk about the kind of qualities that you'd be looking for as an employer, please?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we do is around the individuals, around the person. You know, interviews are not yes, no answers any longer. You know, they're more sort of focused on, you know, life skills and competency based. You know, so what we're looking for is an engaging person, somebody who can communicate. I mean, communication is key to software, whether that is you know, engaging day to day with the rest of your team, or whether that's talking to a customer to try and understand requirements, or whether that's doing a presentation back to senior management. All of these things require good, solid communication and understanding. You know, we need that adaptability. You know, IT is ever changing. You know, it's not one of those things that you get into it and you may do the same thing for 10 years. That does happen, but invariably not. So we need an individual who's willing to learn new things, who's adaptable to change. Obviously, you know, other than the technical skills that come with it, you know, it's about how that person can interact with others. You know, we tend to sort of, interviews are more stilted. You know, it's one person being talked to by two or by three. You know, a lot of the benefits that you get is, you know, is seeing people, you know, working in a team, or, you know, even having an assessment day, because you see how they interact with other individuals, and how, you know, and that allows you to extrapolate out, well, how would that person fit into a team? How would that person work well in a team? You know, not everybody is comfortable making a presentation. Not everybody is comfortable, you know, putting their hand up and being the first person to make a suggestion. So, you know, it's looking for those indicators and looking for the people's strengths is what's important to me at interview. But, you know, if I had to pick one thing, I would say good communicator.
Good. That's very important. And I was interested in something that you mentioned earlier about the range of backgrounds that you've experienced and managed. We had a young man on a graduate academy a couple of years ago, and he said that he had a teacher at school who used to say, common sense, the most uncommon of senses, which is interesting. The ability to read a situation, to read a room, to kind of take the pulse, I suppose, of a meeting, or take the pulse of the client. Now, that leads us on to someone who's, you know, professionally qualified to take a pulse, and has had a particularly interesting route to the career path which he's chosen now. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Jessica, formally again, to our webinar. And Jessica, maybe you could take us right back to a point in your life that Gareth talked about, which is that I'm 18 and doing A-levels. Could you pick it up from there and tell us your story, please? You're very welcome.
Certainly, yeah. So thanks, Aidan. So yeah, hello everyone. I'm Jessica. I'm working as a software developer with Aflac as well, with Pega, same as Kerry. So if I go back, yeah, to A-levels, I really enjoyed like logic and science-based subjects. So I ended up doing maths and chemistry and biology, and kind of similar to Gareth, I got kind of, you know, encouraged in the other direction, so towards the medical route, because I was a high achiever, and, you know, at that age it's kind of difficult to know what to do, so I just went with it. And medicine, you know, it was a very goal-orientated course and career, so I was always kind of working towards the next thing, whether it was an exam or just like the next step in the job, and you know, that's good. But like, I never really stopped then to think if I actually properly enjoyed the subject. There was a lot of logic involved, and I enjoyed the theory, but not really the practical side of medicine, which obviously is like a massive part of it. And I'm sure you can imagine there wasn't a huge area for creativity there, which is quite important to me in my life as well. So I ended up leaving medicine because it just wasn't really for me. And I actually ended up working in Randox Health
as a reporting scientist. So that just involved analysing and interpreting blood results basically and writing up reports for them. And it was actually here that I ended up getting interested in IT because they introduced new software to help us analyse all these bloods, and I actually became more interested in the software that was analysing the bloods and like what was the back end than actually like reporting the bloods themselves. Especially if you know, things were going wrong with the software, I'd like try to fix it, even though I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I was like more interested in that. Also, you know, my brother and a couple of friends, they had jobs in the IT industry, and I remember listening to them chatting about it, and it sounded really great, like the whole learning culture around it and the encouragement the companies give like towards self-learning. But also there was a bit of a relaxed way of working as well, which really appealed to me. And similar to what Kerry said earlier, you know, I was keeping an eye out for different courses and kind of considered doing the conversion masters, but I really didn't want to go back to university for another year. So whenever I saw the advertisement for Shared Skills Academy, I knew it was something I had to apply to. And that's how I ended up here.
So, Jessica, thank you very much indeed for that. But there's one word that kept coming back to me whenever you were talking, and that was courage. Because I would imagine it took a lot of courage to leave. You know, if you think about that, there's a very famous American politician called Andrew Cuomo who's achieved great things in New York, and he tells a joke about his mother, you know, saying, someone saying to the mother, yes, you must be so proud of your son. And she said, I'm very proud of him. I'm particularly proud of my daughter, who's a doctor. Did anyone, and you don't have to get into naming individuals, but did anyone say to you, Jessica, don't do this. You've got the best job in the world. Why would you think of changing career?
I mean, yeah, there's a few people were shocked by the decision of having to change, but in general, people were pretty supportive. And yeah, it was a difficult choice and difficult decision for me.
Yeah.
But everyone has skills and characteristics that are better suited for different jobs and different careers. And I'm glad I realized kind of early on in my career that mine was more suited elsewhere rather than medicine, and I think I definitely made the right choice by changing.
Well, that's wonderful, and you're having great success in bringing your skills to work with a really forward-looking company, and that's great. Thank you so much for that. I've got a question from a careers teacher for Gareth, which I'm going to come to just after we chat James, because I was going to start today by saying, you know, like paraphrasing one of those jokes, you know, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, and a new graduate walk into a fancy office building in City Keys. But as you're working remotely, I can't really use that one. But the recent graduate I referred to is James Goldsmith. So James, you tell us again about your journey, why you chose this sector, and a little bit about what you're doing with the company at the minute, please.
Yeah, indeed. Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Ed, and also good to chat with all of you guys about Aflac and everything to do with shared skills. So yeah, I was the recent graduate out of the bunch of shared skills. I came out of the University of Liverpool, studied away in England, and graduated with a 2-1 in business economics, and had a couple of years away from Belfast and came back and seen all the hustle and bustle going on with the IT sector and seeing how much it grown. And I was just looking at it before I ever applied or seen it with shared skills. I thought Belfast was a really good infrastructure in general for IT, and especially so many different upskilling programs there existing. So whenever I came across this, I thought this would be a no-brainer, really. I can use the transferable skills that were attained during my degree, and especially from myself, from a sporting background in football and all sorts, really. Using the ability to be able to communicate within a team and talk to different people from a number of different backgrounds was so good. And then, especially from economics, for myself anyway, a fundamental basis of the program really is problem solving and analytical thinking. So I thought it would be a natural fit. And then as soon as we had initial conversations and got to meet the early team within Aflac Northern Ireland and with the guys from Belfast met, and honestly I was completely sold on it. I thought this would be a really good program in which I can really test myself and get a crash course in everything, software development. And the refreshing thing about it when we were all on the program was firstly the variety of people you had on it. It was really good and really refreshing to get people with completely different mindsets and approaches to working.
Yeah.
And I think in terms of whether it would be group exercises or whenever it came to the last few weeks with looking at PEGA development, I think having that sort of coming together, different mindsets and ideas was so good. And it literally, whenever we were in the program, felt like it was constantly moving, much like the world of software development. So one week you would be on Python, next you would be on Excel, presenting software testing, and then finally PEGA. It was a good method of growing into what the mindset of a software engineer should be and moving all the time. And then in terms of my own work here at the company Aflac Northern Ireland, I'm a developer here also in the new wonderful world of PEGA software engineering, and I'm on the same team as Kerry. So we had significant releases last year with the web chatbot that we were talking about, that customer agents, customer care specialists in the United States are using for the general queries, and are building out an email tool at the moment. And it's just been really refreshing to come in and utilize all the different skills that have built from that academy, especially even just in terms of not just the software itself, the actual skills that are involved in it, and the problem solving and analytical mindset that's needed for it. So yeah, the program's just been really good in terms of upskilling me personally. As before the program anyway, no GCSEs, no A levels in regards to IT and whatnot. It was great to build it from the ground up and build on top of all the other skills from either life experience or my university degree, and build them up over the 9-week period. And yeah, it was a great experience. I would definitely sell it to anyone who's interested, no matter what industry.
James, thanks so much. I mean, you've given a great overview of what you're doing. So my next question, I always hesitate to ask because because of the very detailed answer that you've given, a great answer that you've given. My next question was, can you describe the typical day? Can you describe a typical day in the working life of what you do at Aflac, or a typical week? I suppose there's no such thing as a typical week, but can you give us a little bit of a flavor of what it's like to work in that particular industry, please?
Yeah, it's really good. So communication, even over a virtual platform, in terms of our teams, every day we come on, and it's as with agile development, we come on and communicate with each other during a stand-up sort of scenario, 9 to 9:30. So we communicate what exactly we're tackling, and each of us is assigned, let's say, a user story, whether it be individually or as part of a small group, and you're building out small features within the application. So we'd be going off doing that, and then there would be things like refinement sessions, tasking, stuff like that. And then yeah, a lot of individual development at the moment, but plenty of opportunities for mobbing. It's changing all the time. Like in terms of the user stories that you're assigned, it can have more of a QA spin on it possibly, or it can be specifically looking at development, APIs, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's just a really varied role, and that's what's so refreshing about it. And definitely the Assured Skills program got me into that mindset of continually changing and continually doing different styles of tasks. And yeah, I just find the role incredibly refreshing to what I'd previously studied, where everything was quite set in stone, done a specific way. And yeah, it's just really refreshing, especially in a company with Aflac Northern Ireland.
That's brilliant, James, because as you say, the industry is changing, and the CPD needs to change, all of those things. I've got a question in a moment for Sarah to talk about the importance of mathematics and how critical that is. But Gareth, I wanted to ask your advice, please, because Jason Wilson, who's a careers teacher, is talking about the kind of panoply of qualifications that are out there, and how many qualifications there are in the IT area. It can be a bit, I suppose, of a challenge, maybe even confusing for people to choose a qualification. As an employer, are there some that work better for you? Advice that you would be giving to those tuning in today?
Some aren't any better than others. I mean, what I would say is the vast majority of IT and computing degrees have very common core. There are fundamentals to IT that is taught across all of those courses. So, irrespective of which one gets chosen, you will learn the fundamentals of software, of programming, of networks, and insight into data, and that type of thing. What I would suggest, Jason, is, the individual that you're talking to, try and find out what their core interest is. They may be interested in data, they may be interested in cyber, they may be interested in network, they may be interested in games development. So understand the fact that each of these courses will have a common core, and it's about finding out what is going to be of most interest to that individual. Because on top of a basic degree, there are many specialisms and specialist areas. Most of them do cover as broad a brush as possible, so that people become rounded software individuals. It's probably only in year 3 or potentially year 4 that the specialisms will come in, and that particular individual would know exactly where they want to focus and highlight their journey. But my first choice would be, yep, they've all got a common core. What does this particular individual, what's their passion? And if it's gaming, put them into a gaming orientated course. If it's digital media, put them into a more digital media type course, as opposed to a core network or hardcore programming course. Each individual is different, but everybody will get the fundamentals and the basics in year 1 and year 2 of all of those degrees. And universities are very flexible, so even after year 1 and year 2, there will be options to take elective modules in other interesting courses, should that individual choose to. So it's hard to see the wood for the trees, but just assume they're all made of wood. So just first step, pick one, and focus on the individual's specific desires.
That's an excellent answer, Gareth. Thank you so much. And it's fabulous to have your input as an employer. I mean, I asked you the question about what are you looking for, and we're tapping in there directly from school to the question that a careers teacher has working with people who are thinking about this sector. Thank you so much for that. Sarah, I wonder if we could kind of, as we move towards the end of our session today, you gave us an overview of a range of qualifications in different institutions and different kind of places of learning right across the country. Now, Kieran's talking about mathematics. How important is mathematics? Jessica talked about being very good at maths earlier on when she was doing A-levels and so forth. But in terms of software developing, software engineering role, how critical is maths, Sarah?
I think probably Gareth might be a better person to take that one as well. But as I said in my presentation, sometimes maths is requested when you are, definitely GCSE maths will be requested for every course that you apply to. Sometimes A-level maths is requested, but not all of the time. So look at what the different entry criteria are for universities and for further education colleges for the foundation degrees. And again, in the first year of the degrees, the time and foundation degrees and FE courses, time will be spent on basic fundamentals, things that you need to know. So if you are lacking in confidence, Kieran, don't let that put you off, because there is a great support across all academical institutions on the fundamentals in those first years of study.
And thank you very much, Sarah. And it is that willingness to learn. I mean, we had a call from a premier field engineer from Microsoft last year, and he was talking about he'd been a welder and was made redundant at 30, went back to university to do a degree in French, which he'd always wanted to do, and only switched on a computer, Gareth, and I'm coming to you next with your employer hat on, only switched on a computer at the age of 30 because his professor wouldn't accept a handwritten essay, and he's ended up working in IT with the kind of skills and qualities. So could you comment on that maths question for us, please, Gareth?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, confession time, I have a grade C in GCSE maths, that's it. That's what I got, and I've been doing IT for 20 plus years. There are aspects of IT such as data science and data analytics, some forms of cybersecurity, some of the network level courses that are more heavily mathematical than standard software application development, games development. There is an element of mathematics and understanding, how sometimes things work. But for me, it's not so much maths that you would learn in school. It's more logical thinking. It's more logical breaking down of a problem. It's breaking a problem down into its smallest object and then solving that object bit at a time. From a pure mathematical perspective, very definitely that's on the data science, data analytics side. Software engineering in general doesn't need maths every day. There will be times when you need maths to work out a particular problem, but that's why we have a team ethos. It's not down onto the individual. You know, if maths isn't your particular specialty, somebody you work with will be much more, focused in that space. So you use their brain instead of your own. You know, it's very useful to have maths as a core skill. You know, GCSE level is pretty much compulsory for everything, but as a specific you must have for IT, not always necessary.
Very good. And again, it's that attitude there. Megan asked us about courses in the evening. Yes, absolutely. There are a range of MTA, Sarah, and part-time qualifications which will be done in the evening and online as well. So that's available. I think, Sarah, probably at the end, you're going to put up the contact details, the slides where people can get in touch if they have follow-up questions as well.
Yes, of course, Aidan. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Jason again comes back. And again, Gareth, I might just, put you on the spot again, and thank you so much for your input today. It's been absolutely invaluable. But Jason's talking about teaching in an all-girls school, and we know that the industry is quite underrepresented in terms of women in that area. So Jason's question is this: I teach an all-girls school, many students don't have any working knowledge of experience in the areas you've mentioned. So a foundation common year across all degrees help address this and promote transferability? I mean, that's a question in terms of what you would like to see.
I mean, all of the courses eventually give people that foundation. I mean, if people have an idea that they want to get into IT, but they don't necessarily know exactly which facet of IT to get into, then a software engineering degree, a standard software engineering degree is probably the best place to start, because that will give you the broad brush and give you an insight into data application development, programming, how to scope a project, how to understand requirements, and from that then you can diversify. I mean, if a lot of people, it depends on people's passions. A lot of people are into social media, a lot of people are into gaming. So that's kind of a focus and a passion that some people have. And they don't necessarily generally associate that with a computing and an IT degree. Yeah. But as the universities are moving forward, a lot of those are becoming actual core subjects, So take where your future career path. If you think it's going to be an IT, great. If you don't know the specialism, do a generic software engineering degree, or an engineering degree, or even physics and maths or chemistry. All of those STEM type subjects have IT content. Pretty much everything we do now is involving IT in some form or other. But from a core degree, if you don't know a specialism, do general software engineering. Would be my advice to somebody if they ask me.
Brilliant. And I mean, it really has been fabulous to get your insight on that as an employer, but also in terms of your career journey, applying the skills learned in a law degree, and very interesting indeed. Sarah, I think just before I thank everyone who's contributed to this, I wonder if you might want to pick up Jason's point, because I know you're very actively involved in the Belfast IT Girls Summer Scheme program and Women Who Code and various other things like that. Anything you want to mention just as we move to the end of our session, please?
Yeah, well, that's one of our main focuses in Bring It On, is to try and encourage more young women into IT. And it's what Gareth was saying earlier. Like there are those myths still out there that a career in IT is all about sitting in your dark room coding all day, when in fact we know it's not. It's all about collaborating, working in teams, working in. Yes, there's some areas where you will be sitting in that dark room, and go and do that if you want to, by all means. But we want to encourage more young women into IT, and in the summertime we run a girls' summer camp for girls aged 15 to 18, and that's all about giving them an insight into what life in IT could be like. And we bring in mentors from industry into that week, and they get the chance to experience different subjects. For example, cyber is one that we've done in the past. They've done games development. They've used green screens to develop their own ads and videos, so introducing them to a number of different areas. And we have had feedback from those sessions. Like there have been people who were previously considering going into medicine, who after IT Girls were like, no, I'm not going to go into medicine. I'm going to go and do a degree in tech. So Jason, I would love to chat to you about the different things that we do to encourage more young women into IT. And if you do want to find out more about what we're doing, Bring It On is on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at Bring It On NI. And you all will have received an email from us with this webinar link. So if you have any additional questions, if you want to get in touch with us, do email us back. We'd love to hear from you and talk to you more. And just from me as well, I want to say a huge thank you to our guests from Aflac. It is so interesting to hear the different stories, really inspiring, I think, for people to hear, you know, it is possible, even if you've started out in run route, it is possible to make that change. And thanks a lot to Gareth for his perspective as well. It's really very much appreciated.
Brilliant. Sarah, thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful to have this opportunity to learn. I think every day is school day, but we've learned a lot today. Jarlath asks a question about whether you know, a Conversion Masters or an Assured Skills Academy is the best way forward. Both are valuable. Gareth and Sarah Milliken at Aflac are managing people who have taken various routes in there, so there is no you know, particularly correct one. I thought that was wonderful. And just when you were talking about confession time, you know, I graduated this July 35 years ago, and Tuesday afternoon, Princess Alexandra gave me a piece of paper, which I thought was a great thing. And Friday I was sitting in a pool office, didn't know anybody, didn't know anything. And there was no opportunity to have a forum like this where you could learn from people who have achieved so much and are doing so much in a company which is so ambitious, but so good. Aflac are so good at looking after their people of values. So on behalf of Sarah, everyone at Bring It On, everyone at Belfast Met, I sincerely thank Gareth McKittrick, Jessica Waterworth, James Goldsmith and Kerry Murray for sharing their skills, expertise, and they've done it with a great blend of grace and good humour today. We're very grateful to you, and we hope that you'll have an opportunity to review this session again on our YouTube site. And thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris.